Let's talk about government shutdowns. They make headlines, they make investors nervous, and sometimes they make us wonder if Washington is doing anything at all. But what is a government shutdown and what does it mean for our economy? First, the basics. A government shutdown happens when Congress cannot agree on funding the federal government through an appropriations bill or a continuing resolution. The Anti-Deficiency Act, originally passed in 1870 and expanded over the years, prohibits federal agencies from spending money without approval from Congress. So, when lawmakers miss the deadline, parts of the government literally runs out of cash. Now, shutdowns haven't always worked the same way. Before 1980, agencies just kept operating, even if Congress hadn't finalized funding, assuming the money would eventually come through. That changed when Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti issued legal opinions in 1980 and 81, clarifying that agencies must stop operations when funding lapses, unless those operations are essential. That's why air traffic controllers and the military keep working, but some national parks and federal offices close. So, how many shutdowns have we had? Since the modern rules began in 1980, there have been 21 funding gaps, though most were short. The big ones you probably remember were in 1995 to 1996 under President Clinton, when the government shut down for a record 21 days over budget disputes. We also had a shutdown in 2013, which lasted 16 days. That was over the Affordable Care Act. And the most recent, in 2018, 2019, the longest in history, a 35-day shutdown during President Trump's first term over border wall funding. Now, let's talk economics. The effects depend on how long the shutdown lasts. Short gaps, like a few days, usually have minimal economic impact. They're more like a nuisance. But longer shutdowns do start to show up in the data. During the 2013 shutdown, Standard & Poor's estimated the U.S. economy lost about $24 billion in GDP. In the 2018-2019 shutdown, the Congressional Budget Office estimated an $11 billion hit, with $3 billion of that permanently lost because federal workers, contractors, and small businesses never fully recovered those wages or lost sales. Markets do also tend to react. The S&P 500 has historically been volatile during shutdowns, but interestingly, long-term investors haven't seen lasting damage. In fact, in many cases, markets recovered quickly after a resolution was passed. The bigger impact is confidence. Federal workers without paychecks cut back spending. Small businesses near federal facilities lose customers, and government contractors face delays. On a macro level, shutdowns can temporarily slow GDP growth, disrupt consumer confidence, and add uncertainty to financial markets. So, what does this mean for you as an investor? First, volatility. Shutdowns usually don't cause long-term market declines, but they can trigger short-term swings. If you're investing in a 401k or an IRA, don't panic and start making trades based on the news cycle. Most of the time, markets recover quickly once funding is resolved. Second, delayed data. During shutdowns, federal agencies like the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Census Bureau stop releasing economic reports. Things like job numbers, GDP updates, and inflation data. That means markets and the Federal Reserve are flying partially blind, which can add to volatility. And then third, personal impact. If you work for the federal government or rely on government contracts, a shutdown can directly affect your paycheck. In those cases, having an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses becomes even more critical. And finally, remember that shutdowns are more about politics than economics. They rarely change the fundamentals of the U.S. economy or the long-term trajectory of the market. For most investors, the best move is to stay the course, keep contributing to your retirement plan, and avoid emotional decisions. That's it for this week. This is Jeannie, the 401k lady.